My nephews are driving me insane. They're tormenting me, making my life a living heck. And there's one thing that I'm going to do about it, and everyone's against it, including my family. But you know what? I don't care. One of the things I never did as a teenager was cause trouble for my parents or a piece of crap to the neighbors, because I knew I'd be in a big mess with my parents. But my nephews, who are now teenagers, just seem to do things and get away with them because their parents let them. I think one of the mistakes I made was renting an apartment close to my uncle's house. When I moved to a new city last year because of a new job I got, my uncle was so excited to have me in his town. My uncle, Tom, and I have been pretty close when I was younger, but after his second son, Chris, was born, he had to move out of our hometown in search of a greener pastures with his family. The first 2 weeks I came to town, I crashed at his place, and before the second week ran out, I found a little apartment for lease, on the street next to his. At first, I contemplated living so close to him, but after speaking to my parents, they told me it was way better to live close to my uncle, since I did not have any other family or friends in town. Well, I bought into the idea and moved in, thinking that I've made a good decision to have family close to me, but in the months to come, it ended up being a very bad decision. The first few months I lived there, I enjoyed it because I could easily walk or drive to my uncle's house to spend family time with them on the weekends, and my nephew, Bill and Chairs, would visit my house occasionally. After my uncle moved out of our hometown when I was younger, I only saw my nephews occasionally but never got to know them, well, until I had the opportunity to stay with them. One thing I could say about my nephews was that they were very bratty and entitled. They loved pranking other neighbors, or they would do something that would cause the neighbors to report them to their parents, and one time they smashed eggs all over their neighbor's car. I'm talking rotten eggs. Precisely, and when the neighbor reported them to their parents, Tom and Sasha did nothing about it. Instead, they gave excuses to their angry neighbors and said that the boys were only acting their age and boys will be boys. And the annoying thing was, the boys never showed any form of remorse whenever somebody reported them to their parents. Instead, they would just make fun of the person who reported them. Many times I tried to talk to Tom and Sasha about the way they allowed my nephews to do terrible things and get away and how they were spoiling them, but my uncle, most especially, claimed that he had done worse as a teenager and that he still grew up fine and a responsible man. I'm so sure these were the words that encouraged my nephews to keep pranking people and misbehaving. On the other end, Sasha did not say anything. Even if neighbors came in to complain every day, she would only tell my uncle to talk to them, and that was it. One time, things got so bad that my nephews had to become the topic of discussion in our community Facebook group. Someone who lived about 2 streets away from my uncle's house caught my neighbors on her security camera as they mixed paint and, well, poured it into her lawn. Then she posted the camera footage on the Facebook group and asked if anybody knew who these teenagers were or who their parents are. When people watched the footage, a lot of people recognized my nephews instantly and claimed they were always a nuisance, and that even if she reported them to my uncle and aunt, they would not do anything because they turned the kids into brats. When the lady read all the bad comments from other people, she was even more determined to meet Tom and Sasha herself. The day she came to confront them, I was at my uncle's house that weekend, and she was yelling at the top of her voice. She said so many things to Tom and even threatened to have them reported for disturbing the peace of the community if Tom and Sasha did not do a thing about it. As usual, Tom and Sasha apologized on their behalf and forced the boys to say that they were sorry. But after she left, they all mimicked her and burst into a loud laugh, and at that point I could not tolerate them anymore. So I talked to Tom in front of everyone and told him what was doing with the kids was all shades of wrong, and soon he would have a bad reputation within his neighborhood. Somehow what I said made him so mad, and he said that I would not know what it feels like to have fun as a teenager because I had a boring father who was scared to do anything fun. Example, his older brother. When he said that, I didn't take it personally, but my annoying nephews made a big deal out of it. They became angry and began to say that I was crossing boundaries, and I had no right to tell them what was wrong or what was right, simply because I was not their parents. That evening, I left their house because I could not condone them talking to me rudely in the presence of their parents, who did nothing to stop them. After that day, the frequency at which I visited their house dropped, and I became distant from them. I know my uncle noticed, but he never called to ask what changed because he knew why I stopped coming. Exactly a week after I stopped visiting my uncle's house, I was sleeping one night at home. It was around 1 a.m., and I heard noises coming from my backyard. Since the low voices woke me up from my sleep, I was a bit scared. I wanted to call the police, but I decided to get a closer look and maybe take a picture of them or get the names they call each other. But as I got closer, I was shocked. It was my nephews. I saw them from the window and immediately called their names, and they sprinted away with the bag full of tools they stole from my backyard. Very early the next morning, I went home to report that my nephews have done something like this. Initially, when I told them that I caught my nephews red-handed as they stole from my backyard, my nephews denied being at my house and playfully said I must have seen it in my dreams. At this point, I was livid, so I told my uncle and aunt that they better do something about it or I'm going to take legal action against them. The moment I said so, my uncle stopped supporting the fact that his sons did not steal my tools and begged that I don't do anything because they were only boys and kids who were still growing up. I wasn't even interested in what he had to say because I was so angry and I just left the house in a rage. Deep down, I knew Tom and Sasha were not going to do anything about their sons because the boys had been in the worst situations with other neighbors, and every time their parents shrugged it off like it was nothing, never punishing them for what they've done. Concerning the legal action I mentioned, I'm serious about it. I needed my nephews to return everything they've stolen from me and also get punished by the law since their parents would not punish them. Later that day, Tom and Sasha kept calling me, but I refused to take their calls, and from all I had seen with the other neighbors, I knew they would not do anything to my nephews because they never did. For the whole day and evening, I did not take their calls or respond to their text messages. The next day, my dad's call woke me up. He told me Tom said he'd been trying to call me, but I didn't respond, and that he came over to my house and saw my car parked outside, but I refused to answer the door. Well, I explained everything that was happening to Dad, and he said Tom told him everything and that he had grounded the boys, so I should forgive them and let everything slide. Well, I didn't like the sound of it, but because my father had to call me, I decided to forgive my nephews on the condition that they returned my tools. Tom called shortly after my father called and assured me that he had grounded my nephews and they promised to be less troublesome. Well, I fell for his calm tone and told them I would not take legal action, and we made up. He also assured me that my nephews would return all the tools that they took from the backyard, but weeks passed and I didn't get them back. After a month of hearing nothing about my tools, I decided to let the sleeping dogs lie. I didn't want to start another issue, even though I wasn't happy that my tools were not there. Also, some days after I settled with my uncle, I traveled out of town for 3 weeks because of my job. It was when I returned that I realized my tools have not been returned like my uncle assured me, and I was not in the mood to confront him about it at all. I only called him and told him I'm back in town, since he called at least twice to check up on me while I was away. Well, 2 days after I notified Tom and Sasha that I was back, something terrible happened. I got ready for work one morning only to realize all 4 tires of my car were deeply slashed and were all deflated. Now, if the deflation happened with 1 tire of the car, I would have thought I picked up a nail or something, but after seeing all 4, I knew it was done by someone or a group of people. That whole morning I was in shock, and I spent part of my time wondering who could have done such a thing to me. For almost 10 months, I lived in that neighborhood, and I had not experienced such a thing. It was very peaceful and a quiet neighborhood, so there was no form of violence or anything related to violence in our neighborhood. Sadly, because of my tire incident, I reached the office very late, because everything took me by surprise and I got a warning. The rest of my day got ruined because I could not concentrate and was thinking about the evil person who would have done this to my tires. At that moment, I wish I had installed cameras and did not keep procrastinating. If I had done that, I would have known the person or people who did this to me. As if having all 4 of my tires of my car slashed was not enough, I went home to see a vandalized backyard and some of my expensive tools were stolen. Again. I was so mad I could not even control my anger. My backyard was in terrible shape, and from the way it was destroyed, I could tell that it did not happen by mistake. Whoever destroyed my backyard and took that stuff knew exactly what he or she was doing. Since all this happened on a Friday, I planned to cancel all my outings the next day and stay home to see if they would show up again. I took a few pictures of my destroyed backyard before attempting to clean it up, and I even made a video where I mentioned that the tools that were missing, in case the police would need them, just in case. Wow. Just as I was about to go and make a video of my car slashed tires, I got a WhatsApp video from my nephews, Chris. To be honest, I was not interested in watching the video at that moment, but when I read the caption that said, "This is what you get for getting us grounded," well, I knew exactly then I would open it immediately. I did not even realize that he sent me a video early in the morning because, well, I wasn't in the right state of mind and I simply did not see the message. In the first video they sent, Bill and Chris were standing by my car and they were both holding a penknife and a bottle of beer each. They were smiling weirdly and they said, "Make sure you don't run late for work today." And they turned the camera to focus on my back tire that was already slashed. I was so furious when I found out they were responsible for my tires. And they did not show any remorse for it, and in the second video they placed a phone camera far away from them so it could record them as they destroyed the backyard and packed my expensive tools into a double garbage bag. To add insult to injury, in their second video, they said that I should not have gone to their parents when they stole from me the first time, and because of me they were grounded and punished for 2 weeks. Then they added that if they wanted to make things worse, I should go to their parents again, and that I should stay far away from their house henceforth. I wish I could explain the anger that was pumping through me at that moment. My head was literally on fire, and I swore I would teach those little brats a lesson. Well, I listened to them and did not involve their parents because I knew they would only make excuses, and no amount of groundings or punishment would be enough for everything they've done. So, the night before, I could not even sleep or eat because I kept thinking of the best way to make them pay for what they've done. The following morning, I went ahead to file a theft and property vandalism complaint, and I took it to Juvenile Justice Board because they were under 18. I knew that the board would take action against them, and I didn't even mention anything to their parents for the whole weekend. I just focused on cleaning up my backyard and doing other things. The following week, when Tom and Sasha got the notice from JJB, they came to my house and I returned from work to meet them sitting on my front porch. Immediately I saw them, I knew why they had come. I wasn't wrong. They came to beg me to apologize on their kid's behalf, but I was not having it. I showed them the videos of the damage that they caused me and even the videos they sent to me after they slashed the tires and destroyed my backyard. And Tom promised that he would replace all 4 tires and pay for the damages. My mind was already made up, though, and I wasn't only interested in having my tires replaced or the damages paid for. I just wanted to teach those brats a lesson, whether their parents liked it or not, and after they repeated with the pleading with me to forgive my quote young and naive nephews when it did not work, they flipped the script and became angry at me. Tom said I was being difficult and trying to absolutely ruin my nephews' lives because I did not have the opportunity as a teenager to fool around like them. Ridiculous. Well, Tom also tried to pull the family ties into emotional blackmail, but I've had enough of their crap at this point, and kicked him out of my apartment. Everything I've narrated happened recently, and since then my family members have been calling me nonstop. They've called me foolish, stupid, insensitive, all kinds of other names in the past few days. They all claim that I'm about to ruin my nephew's lives, but like I said earlier, my mind has been made up. It's not like I feel bad that almost my entire family is against me, but I'll ask you guys anyways, am I the a-hole? For wanting to teach my nephews a lesson, I look forward to the comment section. Update number 1. Hey everyone, and thank you for your comments. I'm glad you're all supporting me in teaching my nephews a lesson. Yes, you're all right. I also blame their parents for the way they turned out. It would have been a different case entirely if Tom and Sasha had always reprimanded them, but they refused to listen. But in this case, they did not. Instead, they encouraged them, and Tom even used to tell them all the horrible things he did to our neighbors in our hometown when he was also a teenager. I don't know if my nephews wanted to break their father's record, but whatever it is, this'll teach him a lesson to not mess with other people's properties again in their entire lives. Speaking of my uncle, yesterday my father called me again to beg on his behalf, and he said my uncle has promised to make the boys work and pay back every dime it would cost to fix my tires. Blah blah blah, but I warned him to stop calling me if it had anything to do with my uncle, or I would stop taking his calls. I don't know why 90% of my family members think I'm making a terrible mistake. In their words, you're making a horrible mistake. Amber, you might never have done this, and, well, you can't undo it. To be honest, I don't give a damn about what I can undo and what I can't. Why isn't anyone seeing from my perspective? As I make this update, my older sister has stopped talking to me because I refuse to listen to her. She's called me the most names, and she said I'll break my relationship with my uncle and my nephews if I go ahead with the court case. Meanwhile, Tom has been making funny posts on Facebook lately. He's recently been talking about family and why people should not let little problems destroy their family bonds. LOL. I know he's indirectly referring to me, and he knows that I will see the post. Each time I read the post and the comments from the people who have no idea what's going on, I laugh and just keep scrolling. I actually don't care if he makes similar posts on all his social media platforms or if he prints them as a flyer and puts them all over the streets. No one can make me change my mind. Meanwhile, one court hearing is right around the corner, and I'm so prepared for it. Since then, I've not seen or heard from my nephews. I was thinking that they would send me more video threats or come back and vandalize my house again, but as it is now, I'm ready to cut ties with Tom and my nephews after this. I don't want such ill-mannered teenagers around me or parents who can't raise their kids properly. Again, thank you to everyone for your comments. I'll make another update once the court hearing's wrapped up. Update number 2. Hey guys, I really appreciate your support, and I'm so relieved that I have people here who see things from my perspective. I know I promised to make another update after the court hearing, but I had to share this here. Yesterday, Tom and Sasha showed up at my house again, and I was surprised to see them because the last conversation we had did not end up well. Remember, I asked them to leave my apartment, right? Well, when they came, Sasha did not look so happy, so she let Tom do most of the talking, and Tom started the conversation by reminding me how close we were when I was younger, and telling me that I was his favorite niece. But if I went ahead with the court hearing, I would ruin that bond and any future relationship that we would have. Well, I told him to his face that I was not interested in a future relationship. If I was a crappy kid like my nephews or acted inappropriately, he would not have a close relationship with me because nobody wants to be a pain in the butt. He looked remorseful, and each time he tried to pull the emotional blackmail card, I countered it. After minutes of arguing with each other, Sasha got up and yelled at me. She said that she had had enough of my nonsense, and if I insisted that I would do what I had in mind, then I had no place in her home anymore. Somehow, I knew she's been dying to say that, and she finally said that what was on her mind. From the onset, Sasha did not like me like she pretended to. She only acted like she liked me because of my uncle. When she saw that her statement did not move me one bit, she called me ungrateful. She said I was not acting like someone they helped when I had no place to stay. Not to sound ungrateful, but Before I moved to town, my intention was to stay in a hotel till I got my apartment, but my uncle insisted that it was wrong for me to stay in a hotel when he had a spare room. I do appreciate everything they've done for me, but it's wrong for her to bring that up, especially in a situation like this. I've been nice to Sasha too, and every time I go shopping for myself, I always get her something, but I never brought that up or said, "Oh, Sasha, I've been getting you gifts left and right. Your kid should not be doing this to me." Sasha even said that the reason I wasn't married or didn't have a serious relationship was because of my bad character and strong heart. And if I wasn't careful, I would die single, old woman, because no man would want a woman like me. Well, the joke's on her. Quite funny, because if she had channeled this kind of anger to her kids when they started messing around in the neighborhood, this would not be happening. Instead, she joined them to mock everyone who came to report her children's behavior to them. Anyways, Sasha and I ended up having a very heated argument, and I kicked them out of my house. I've also warned them not to show up at my house again, and the court hearing's 3 days, and I'll be making an update soon. Update number 3. Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for your comments, so I came bearing good news. Our court hearing was exactly 2 days ago, and the judge ruled in my favor. On the morning of the court hearing, almost my entire family, including my father, called me repeatedly, but I didn't even answer anybody's calls, because I didn't want to ruin their mood. At the courts, my 2 nephews were present and their parents were there too, and a few of my family members came in town just to support my uncle and nephews. When the time came and the judge asked me what happened, I explained everything. I even showed the videos, photos, you name it. I kept it as evidence. After the judge watched the videos and looked at the photos, she turned to my nephews and asked them to explain themselves. My nephews stammered at first, but they could not lie because the judge had the evidence right there. They had to admit that they slashed my tires and vandalized my backyard because I got them in trouble with their parents, and because they're still quite young in age but have grown bodies, the judge did not give them a sentence. Instead, she gave them 3 months of community service and restitution for damages that they've done and the things that they've stolen and sold. After the judge passed the sentence, my nephews begged for my forgiveness in everyone's presence, and I told them I'd think about it. Also, I still can't get over the look on Tom and Sasha's face when the judge ruled in my favor. It was worth framing. Sasha looked so angry that she could boil an egg with her red face, and the judge also penalized Tom and Sasha for their terrible behavior and pushing their children to be brats. The judge gave my nephews a restraining order and warned that if they tried such a thing again, they would surely serve some jail time. Now, the judgment has been passed, and some of my family members who did not support me before are now saying that I did well by teaching my nephews a lesson, and some are still saying I almost ruined their lives because I'm so hard-hearted. Whatever. What's most important is that the kids will no longer go around troubling neighbors, and they won't be showing up at my house anytime soon. As for Tom and Sasha, we have not spoken to one another since the last time they came to my house. But whatever happens after now, I'm totally prepared. I feel no pity or regret that I did what I had to do because somebody had to teach them a lesson. Thank you to everyone in this community for your comments and support. You guys are fantastic. Let's be honest about this one, guys. Tom and Sasha, what is wrong with them? I mean, they were trying to come up with every single excuse that they could think of to just excuse their kids for the stuff that they were tormenting the town with. Everything that they did to OP was mounting up and up and up. OP even tried to give them a chance to handle it themselves. No one in the comment section I could find was against OP in this situation, but I do want to talk to you guys about it. Let's say, for instance, you were in OP's position. Would you have done anything differently? Would you have changed the route that you went? Would you have called the police sooner? Would you have gone to court? There's so many opportunities that OP could have done this sooner. Let me know your thoughts. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!